Welcome to the deep dive. You know, there's a real buzz around Chinese animation right now, Donghua, they call it, and lots of people are saying it's hitting a kind of golden age.
Definitely feels that way.
So to really get what that means, we're diving into a really interesting upcoming film, Throne of Seal, The Legend of Electrolux.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you're into big fantasy worlds, or maybe just curious about how animation's exploding globally, or even if you just like characters who are, let's say, morally complex, this is for you.
Yeah.
The stuff we've looked at really digs into why this movie is getting so much hype.
Yeah.
It's like a shortcut to understanding why it matters.
Totally. We've got this great review and analysis, really gets into the nitty-gritty of the film Throne of Seal, The Legend of Electrolux, especially the central character, Electrolux, and how it all fits into the bigger Donghua picture.
So yeah, our mission today, pretty simple. Pull out the coolest, most insightful bits about the movie. And this Electrolux guy, we want to give you a good sense of why it's likely to hit home with people and what makes it, you know, special.
Okay, let's get into it then. This whole Donghua boom, it feels pretty recent, doesn't it? Like it went from mostly web stuff to genuinely mainstream almost, well, overnight.
It has been a really quick evolution. I mean, the investment, especially from giants like Tencent Video, that's been huge. A real game changer.
Giving them the cash to do bigger things.
Exactly. Resources for, well, more ambitious stories, better production quality. You see it.
And we are seeing it, right, with these theatrical Donghua films popping up. They're not just like long episodes. They feel bigger, grander scope, visuals that really stand up internationally.
Yeah, things like Dalu, Dual Gods versus Dual Gods, or Perfect World Ashes of Fire. They definitely made people notice. And what's interesting about Throne of Seal, The Legend of Electrolux, is how it's sort of riding that wave. It's not totally new, though.
Right, it has history.
It builds on a really popular novel from, 2011 by Tang Jia and Shao. And then the Donghua series kicked off in 2022 and did really well. So there's already a fan base there.
Yeah.
Big advantage.
So pushing it to a movie feels like a very conscious step up. Why, though? Just reaching more people, or is there more to it?
Well, linking it to the bigger trend, yeah, commercial reasons are there. A movie release, new money, obviously.
Sure.
But there's a cultural angle, too, a big one. These films are a great way to show off uniquely Chinese fantasy styles.
Yeah.
You know, Xiangxia, Wuxia to the whole world, like establishing Donghua as a cultural export.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so out of everything in the Throne of Seal world, why this story for the big screen treatment? What makes it the one?
I think the main idea is just to elevate it all. Make it a real experience. Cinema scale lets you do the amazing visuals, deeper emotional connection, stuff that's maybe harder in a weekly series. It's about making an event out of it.
And who's actually making it? Who's in the director's chair?
It's Zheng Yuanjun and Li Jianing. And what's interesting is they've worked on the Throne of Seal Donghua series before.
Oh, okay, so they know the material.
Yeah, that familiarity helps. And Tencent Video is releasing it. They're the home of the animation anyway, so it fits. Built-in audience there.
Right, makes sense. Leveraging what they've got. But what if you haven't seen the series? Are you just lost if you watch the movie?
Good question. And they seem to have thought about that. It's really designed to work on its own, a standalone story.
Ah, okay.
So even if you're totally fresh to Throne of Seal, you should be able to jump in, follow Electrolux's story, get it, without needing all the backstory.
Okay, let's really get into Electrolux himself then. The material we read paints him as, well, complex is an understatement. He's got all these titles, right?
Yeah.
Holy Necromancer, Law God of Necromancy, Ancestor of Necromancers, even the Crawless God, Uncrowned God. What's that all about?
They definitely scream immense power, don't they?
Yeah.
And hint at the wild journey he goes on. What's really interesting, though, is he's important not just in Throne of Seal with Long Hauken, but he's also a major mentor figure in Dalu II.
Yeah.
Peerless Tang Sect for Hu Yuhao.
Wow, okay. So he connects these two huge franchises.
Yeah, that alone tells you how crucial he is in this whole fictional universe Tang Jia Shao build.
That kind of link suggests he's pretty foundational. What's he like? Visually, the descriptions are pretty vivid.
He's described as like this ethereal, dignified old guy.
Yeah.
White hair, these really striking eyes like starlight. And his clothes are key robes with both holy runes and death sigils.
So light and dark, right there on his clothes.
Exactly. It visually screams that core conflict within him, that fusion.
Okay, so this figure embodying opposites. Let's go back. Where did he start? What were his early days like?
He's from West City, in the Pompod Empire, way back in the glorious era, they call it. Pretty important family. Dad's a city lord. Mom's a powerful light element mage.
Light magic. That usually means good, right? Healing, purity.
Typically, yeah. Which makes his later turn to necromancy, death magic, even more dramatic. And he was brilliant from the start, a prodigy. They called him the Child of Light.
A child of light who becomes a necromancer. Quite the fall from grace. Was he powerful early on?
Unbelievably so. By 15, he was already a 6th-tier great mage, youngest ever on the continent to hit that level.
Wow.
He even won this big genius battle run by the Radiant Church. Got him a title, Viscount, and he was engaged to Princess Douluo. Basically, he was the golden boy, a real symbol of hope.
Sounds like a classic hero origin story. So what went wrong? Where did it all turn dark?
Here's the gut punch. His downfall. It wasn't fate, it was conspiracy. Cooked up by Princess Douluo, his fiancée, and this guy Pedro, the Pope's son.
No way. Why?
They were scared of him. His power was growing too fast, too much, so they framed him. Treason.
Framed by his own fiancée and the church. Ouch.
It's brutal. And the personal betrayal from Douluo is sharp. She literally stabs him with a poisoned dagger in an ambush. Then, based on those lies, his whole family executed.
Oh, man.
That massive loss, that deep betrayal, it triggers something inside him. A dormant necromantic power he inherited.
So the shining child of light, faced with that level of darkness, he embraces the opposite.
Pretty much. He transforms, becomes the scourge of the undead, raises this massive army of the dead to get revenge.
And does he?
Oh yeah. He destroys the Pon Pot Empire, personally takes out Douluo, Pedro, the Pope.
Yeah.
But his revenge basically breaks the continent, leads to collapse, a demonic invasion, total disaster.
Jeez. Consequences.
Huge consequences. He ends up cursed by the heavens, basically, and retreats into this eternal sleep, just eaten up by guilt over what he did.
An incredibly tragic arc. But that's not the end of his story, is it? There's redemption later. Sacrifice.
Right. His path towards, well, maybe not full redemption, but atonement, starts later in the main Throne of Seal timeline. He meets Long Hauken and Kair. Their selflessness, their love, kind of forces him to face himself.
How so?
He does things to help them, gives his purified eternal tower and death energy to Kair, creates this artifact, the Eternal Heart, for Long Hauken. Then he just vanishes, atoning in his way.
And you mentioned Douluo Dali II. He's a mentor there. How does that fit?
Yeah, his spirit, his divine consciousness, ends up residing in Hu Yuhao's mind. He guides him, shares his knowledge, and his ultimate act there is a huge sacrifice. He helps transform the Snow Empress into a soul spirit for Hu Yuhao, essentially becoming part of his power.
Wow. So the Destroyer becomes a source of power and guidance. That's complex.
It is. That duality is really key to why he's so fascinating.
So this new movie, Throne of Seal, The Legend of Electrolux, it's a prequel covering his early life.
Exactly. It focuses specifically on his backstory in that glorious era, centuries before Long Hauken's time. Smart move, actually.
Oh, he's smart.
Because it lets them tell his origin story without stepping on the toes of the main Throne of Seal series plot. It's separate but connected.
So we'll actually see it happen, the betrayal, the transformation.
That's the plan. It'll likely cover his time at the Royal Magic Academy, falling for Douluo, then bam, the betrayal. Him surviving somehow, seeing his family killed, embracing necromancy, and starting that war of revenge.
Betrayal and vengeance. Those themes are obviously huge here. Why do you think they hit so hard for audiences everywhere?
Well, they're just fundamentally human, aren't they? Betrayal cuts deep. And that urge for justice, even if it turns into vengeance, it's a powerful, relatable emotion. Electrolux, he kind of fits that classic anti-hero mold.
Right, like someone pushed too far.
Exactly. Someone whose path gets twisted by tragedy. And the sheer scale of his loss, love, family, honor really ramps it up. Makes you think, what would it take to break someone?
And how do the Chinese fantasy elements, the Xianxia stuff you mentioned, play into this?
Oh, right. Xianxia. Think. Martial arts meets Taoism meets epic fantasy. Characters cultivating power, seeking immortality, cosmic forces. That's the world Electrolux is in.
So his power isn't just magic, it's cultivation.
It's tied into that. Yeah. His personal journey for power, the idea of balance in the universe, these are big Xianxia themes. His fall isn't just personal, it throws the whole world out of whack, which is very typical of the genre.
It sounds like the film isn't just painting him as a mustache-twirling villain then, more like exploring why he became what he did, showing the corruption he reacted against, trying to get us to empathize, maybe?
That seems to be the goal. Not just, here's the bad guy, but here's how the hero was broken. We see the ideal shattered and something much darker, much more complicated, born from the ashes.
And the visuals will probably play a big part in that.
Oh, definitely. The battles, especially him against the Radiant Church, his old masters and their holy guards, That's expected to be a huge spectacle, showing off the scale of his power and his rage.
Okay, so considering the main series is about Long Hauptmann and Douluo II is massive, why Electrolux for the movie? What's the strategy?
Several good reasons, actually. Long Hauptmann's story is still going in the Donghua. A movie might feel unfinished or just retread ground.
Makes sense.
Electrolux, though, his origin is a complete story.
Right.
Tragic, yeah, but contained. Perfect for a movie. Plus, like we said, he links both big franchises. That pulls in fans from Throne of Steel and the Douluo Dalu. Bigger audience.
And his story is just cinematic, right? The fall, the necromancy.
Totally. Big transformation, visually spectacular powers. It's made for the big screen. And it lets them flesh out the Throne of Steel world more. Add history, mythology, like origin stories for major side characters in superhero comics.
Yeah, expands the universe. The material we looked at mentioned unparalleled visual ambition. What does that actually look like?
Well, based on the promos, they're really pushing the boat out. Electrolux's design is updated. Black robes, gold runes, white cloak, this cool tricolored staff. Very detailed.
And the world itself.
Supposed to be lush, detailed environments. From the fancy magic academy to war-torn landscapes later. Yeah. Real immersion.
And the action, Throne of Steel, is known for good fight scenes.
Exactly. And with movie money and CGI, expect even bigger, flashier magic. His necromancy, raising armies, fighting powerful enemies. Those scenes should be seriously epic, pushing what Donghua usually looks like.
We talked about the directors having experience with the series. That's got to be a plus.
For sure. Zheng Yuanjun and Li Jianing know this world. Should mean it feels authentic. And the runtime, over 90 minutes apparently.
Oh, so a proper feature length.
Yeah, shows their series. It's a big flagship project for Tencent Video.
So this film isn't just dropping into a vacuum. What's the scene like for Donghua right now? Culturally, commercially?
It's landing right in the middle of this Donghua boom. Huge growth, more eyes on it internationally. But 2025 looks competitive. Lots of other big animated films coming.
So Throne of Steel going theatrical is part of that bigger ambition, competing on a larger stage.
Absolutely, both at home and trying to make a splash globally.
And commercially, it seems like a safe bet with existing fans.
You'd think so. The Throne of Steel fan base is solid. Plus, the Douluo II connection adds even more potential viewers. And the release date, April 30th, 2025, that seems pretty strategic for the spring season.
Beyond ticket sales, though, what could a film like this do culturally?
Culturally. It's another brick in the wall, Yeah. Establishing Donghua as its own thing. Unique stories, unique art styles, rooted in Chinese fantasy, but with themes betrayal, loss, power that connect universally. Electrolux's story hitting globally helps build that recognition for Chinese animation overall.
How are the fans reacting? Seen much talk online?
Oh yeah, tons.
Yeah.
Mostly really positive. People seem genuinely excited. They're focusing on Electrolux. His backstory is legendary among fans.
Any specific moments they're hyped for?
Definitely Fuluo's betrayal. That's a huge, iconic moment. And just seeing his transformation, his early power, lots of anticipation.
Any worries or debates floating around?
Some chatter about how exactly it'll tie into the main story, even as a prequel. And always debates about power levels, just how godlike is Electrolux. But mostly it's just excitement. It's Throne of Steel's first movie, so expectations are high.
Sounds like big opportunities, but maybe some challenges too. What's your take?
Well, the market is crowded. It needs to really deliver visually and story-wise to cut through. And balancing Electrolux's really dark story with the usual, maybe more hopeful vibe of Throne of Steel, that's tricky.
A tightrope walk.
A bit, but the opportunities, huge. Expand the world, cross-promote with Douluo Dalu, maybe even push Throne of Steel into a bigger spotlight overall. And it could really set a new bar for Donghua, tackling mature stuff and aiming for that global audience.
It's interesting thinking about him alongside other fantasy antiheroes. The source material compared him a bit.
Yeah, you could see bits of, say, Anakin Skywalker, The Fall, driven by betrayal and fear. But Electrolux finds this weird, tragic path to atonement later, which is different. Or someone like Griffith from Berserk, similar fall, maybe, but very different motivations, different outcomes.
Even compared to other Chinese fantasy heroes.
Right. He's not like, say, Ye Zhu from the King's Avatar, who's more grounded. Electrolux has these immense supernatural powers, this deeply tragic, almost operatic fall and rise.
Yeah.
It's a unique mix.
So he really bridges different storytelling traditions, doesn't he? Eastern and Western.
I think so, yeah. The core emotions, love, loss, revenge, redemption, those are universal. But the context, the cultivation, the cosmic scale, that's deeply rooted in Xiangxi. It's that blend that makes him stick with you.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Throne of Steel, The Legend of Electrolux, it's this ambitious prequel, digging into the super complex, tragic backstory of Electrolux, a character who looms large over two massive Donghua universes.
Exactly, and it feels like it could be a really defining moment for Donghua, showing off what it can do artistically and narratively on a big cinematic stage.
As we wait for it, it really makes you think about those core themes: betrayal, revenge, and maybe, just maybe, redemption down the line. What parts of his story really stick with you? What is it about characters like him who walk such dark paths that we find so compelling?
And maybe a final question for you to chew on. How does knowing someone's tragic origin story change how you see their later actions? What does Electrolux's whole journey tell us about how blurry that line between hero and villain can get, especially in fantasy? Definitely worth exploring more Donghua, seeing what else is out there in Chinese fantasy.